The sound came just as the sun began to bleed over the canyon rim. A cry so faint it could have been the wind. Colt Maddox reined in his horse, his heartbeat echoing in his ears. Out here, in the far reaches of the Wyoming plains, a man didn't hear many voices that weren't his own. He waited, holding his breath, eyes scanning the wasteland of red rock and tumbleweed. Then it came again, softer this time, but clear enough to freeze him where he sat. Help. He kicked his spurs and rode hard toward the sound. Dust rose behind him like smoke. The desert stretched endless in every direction, silent except for the creak of his saddle and the pounding of his horse's hooves. Colt was a man used to silence. It was safer that way. Ever since the war and the fire that took everything he loved, he'd found peace only in solitude. But something about that voice, cracked, pleading, human, pulled at a place in him he thought long dead. He found her half buried near a dry creek bed, tangled in thornbrush and rope. The sight made his gut twist. She was bound tight at the wrists and ankles, her dress torn, face blistered from the sun. Buzzards circled lazily overhead, waiting for the end. Colt leapt from his horse and knelt beside her, pulling a knife from his belt to cut her free. "Hey, you're all right now, miss," he murmured, voice low but steady. "Ain't nobody gonna hurt you no more." The woman stirred, a faint groan slipping from her cracked lips. Her skin was hot to the touch, her breathing shallow. He poured a few drops of water into her mouth, and she swallowed weakly, before whispering one word that struck him like a bullet. "Please." Her voice was little more than a rasp, but it carried such raw fear that Colt felt it crawl under his skin. He wrapped her in his coat, lifted her into his arms, and set her across his horse. The sun dipped low behind the mountains as he rode back to his ranch, the sky painted in streaks of fire and blood. Every hoofbeat seemed to echo with questions. Who was she? Who'd done this? Why here on his land? He didn't have answers yet. But as the wind howled behind him and the woman's faint breath warmed his chest, Colt Maddox knew one thing for sure. Fate had just brought a ghost back to life. By the time Colt reached his ranch, night had swallowed the plains. The old cabin stood alone beneath a silver moon, its windows glowing faintly with the warmth of a single fire. He carried the woman inside, laying her gently on a cot near the hearth. Her skin was cold now, her breathing uneven, life hanging on by a thread. Colt moved quickly, heating water, tearing strips of linen, and tending to her wounds with the careful hands of a man who'd once known loss too well. When he dabbed the dirt and blood from her face, something stirred deep inside him. Her features, though worn by suffering, sparked a memory he couldn't place. Soft curves, a familiar jawline, lips trembling even in unconsciousness. He shook it off. Maybe it was just the whiskey fogging his mind, or maybe it was the ghosts of his past rising with the wind. For hours he stayed by her side, feeding her small sips of water, wiping sweat from her brow. Outside, coyotes sang in the dark, but Colt didn't move. The fire cracked softly, and time slowed to a strange, still silence, the kind that made a man think too much. At last, near dawn, the woman stirred. Her eyes fluttered open, glazed with confusion and pain. She looked around, her gaze darting to the shadows before locking on Colt. Panic flashed there first, then recognition, not of him but of fear. She tried to sit up, but he held her gently. "Easy now," he said, his voice a low rumble. "You're safe here. Nobody's gonna hurt you." She blinked, her lips trembling. "Safe?" she whispered. "No one's safe out there." Colt frowned, leaning closer. "Who did this to you?" Her throat worked as she swallowed, tears filling her eyes. "They thought I was dead," she said shakily. "They left me to die out there." Colt's jaw tightened. "Who?" Her gaze lifted to his, and for a heartbeat the firelight caught her face in full. Colt's chest went still. He knew those eyes, that voice, that name buried under 7 years of silence. "Because you left me once before, Colt Maddox," she whispered. The words hit him harder than a rifle butt. His breath caught as his mind reeled back to the smoke. The fire, the screams, the night he'd lost her. "Clara?" he rasped. The woman's tears fell freely now. "You left me to die once, Colt, and they found me first." The fire popped sharply, the only sound between them, as the past came crashing back like thunder in the dark. Colt couldn't move. The sound of her voice, the trembling way she said his name, sent a shiver down his spine. For a moment he thought he was dreaming, that maybe the desert heat had twisted his mind. But she was right there before him, alive and real, Clara, the woman he had buried in his heart years ago, the one he'd sworn to God he would have given his life to save. He'd seen the ashes himself, the remains of the old rail settlement where the fire had swallowed everything. He had mourned her, cursed himself, and lived every day since as a ghost of the man he used to be. "How?" he began, voice cracking like old timber. "How are you alive?" She turned her face away from the firelight, eyes glinting with pain. "The night of the fire," she whispered. "I didn't die, Colt. I made it out. But men found me, outlaws. They dragged me away before the smoke cleared. I tried to fight, but they thought I was worth more alive than dead." Colt's fists clenched, rage flickering in his eyes. "They took you. They took everything," she said bitterly. "Years passed before I escaped. I went east, changed my name, tried to forget. But they found me again, said I had something that belonged to them. I ran, Colt. I ran all the way here. They caught me near the creek, tied me up, left me to die. But I thought if I could just reach you." Her voice broke, trembling into silence. Colt rose slowly from his chair, the boards creaking beneath his boots. "And you did," he said softly. "You reached me." Tears glimmered in Clara's eyes as she looked at him. Seeing the man, time had hardened. His jaw was rough, his eyes tired, but behind that weathered face was still the same man she once loved, the man who'd promised her forever. "Why did you never come looking for me?" she asked suddenly, the question carrying years of hurt. Colt swallowed hard. "I did, for weeks. The sheriff said there were no survivors. I searched the ashes myself until my hands bled. I thought I'd failed you." Clara reached for his hand, then, weak, trembling, but real. "You didn't fail me, Colt. You saved me, now." For a brief moment, the years of pain fell away. The fire crackled, their shadows dancing together on the wall. Two souls scarred by time, reunited by fate, but outside, faint and distant, the sound of hooves thundered against the earth, bringing the past back for vengeance.